Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a brand new series of Kerbal Space Program for beginners. In this 1.2 Kerbal Space Program playthrough, we are going to go with the career mode. So if you followed along with my tutorials before this video, you can find them on my channel. You are ready to go to career mode, and this will be a slower playthrough meant for beginners as well, that have a basic understanding of how to maneuver the rockets and how to get to other planets and whatnot. And career mode is going to introduce funds, reputation, and science, all of which are not available in the sandbox. For playthrough purposes, I'm just going to put it on easy because I want to have some fun here. I don't want to be restricted to a bunch of mishaps and whatnot. We're just going to play. And let's go ahead and call this YouTube. And we will pick a flag. And instead of going with the United Federation of Planets, let's see, let's go with the Enterprise, the first Warp 5 capable starship in the Star Trek canon. And hopefully we will be putting the NX-01 on other bodies as well. So let's go ahead and start. Once we get back to the Space Center here, we've got Gene Kerman, and you will notice our Space Center looks a whole lot different than when we were just playing around in Sandbox. These things look very, very tiny indeed. You will also notice this bracket here that shows we have 250,000 funds or dollars. This is our reputation meter. If it's in the green and above, our space program is looked upon very highly. If it's yellow and red, people don't trust our space program much. This little atom here with the 0.0 is our science. So as we progress through career mode, we will be taking contracts at mission control to gain more money, to build rockets, to fulfill contracts, to make money, and collect science to unlock new parts. One thing you will notice is when we go to research and development, now we have a massive tech tree that we can use science to unlock, and they have multiple branches. If you've seen a tech tree before, you know how this works, but we only have the start, and these are the only 6 parts that we know about. That's right, just these 6 is all we have to build with. For 5 science, we can unlock this branch. For 5 more science, we can unlock that branch. And you're thinking, holy crap, that's going to be a lot of science. Well, luckily, soil samples and whatnot bring 200 science back if you bring it back intact. So the tree can open up fairly quickly once we get our legs up under us. And this is meant for a slower progression. The next thing we want to talk about is mission control. This is where we have contracts, and the star is the difficulty level based on what we know. At this point, without upgrading the mission control, we can only take 2 contracts now. Well, obviously, the first thing we want to do is gather scientific data from Kerbal, and when we click on this contract, we see what we have to do to complete the contract and recover or transmit, which we will recover, any science experimental data. So this is crew report, EVA report, mystery goo canister, anything that we bring back counts. That will gain us 12,000 more dollars, gain us 2 science, and 4 reputation. We will take that contract. And then obviously we also want to launch our first vessel, which just means get it off the launch pad or the runway for another $6,400, 2 more science, and 2 more reputation. Now, at this stage, this is all we can accept because we have a very small mission control. Looking at our astronaut complex, it costs money to recruit a Kerbal. So let's just stick with the 4 we got, and then once we expand our space program, we can get some better candidates here. Obviously, what we want to do is launch our first vessel and gain science along the way. So here we are in the vehicle assembly building, and as you can see, the only pod we have is the Mark 1 command pod. So we're pretty much pigeonholed into using that one. The next thing we want to look at is fuel tanks, which there are none, and we own one engine, the RT5 Flea solid fuel booster. Now this is solid fuel, which means we don't even need to throttle this thing. And there we go. We have a functional rocket. However, we can look through and see what else we have. These are girders to strengthen up our rocket. We don't know about decouplers, payload. We have basic fins, which we're not going to leave the atmosphere with this stage, at least not this launch, so we don't need fins really to steer us in any particular direction. No landing gear, no thermal protection, no batteries, no comms, but we do have a science experiment, this mystery goo canister, so we will put one of those on for more science, and our utility, we do have a parachute. So that is a complete rocket at $2,022. Now remember, we get $12,000 for bringing back scientific data and another, what was it, $6 for launching our first vessel. So we are going to make a lot of money here. The next thing we want to do is make sure that our booster fires first and our parachute. Now, because we only have two contracts, we haven't accepted the contract to leave the atmosphere, so there's really no reason to do that at this point. We just want to gather scientific data and launch. We can open up these notes to see what we must do, and we can assign a Kerbal, which I think Jebediah is a great candidate to launch our first vessel. Now what I'm going to do is, to save money, I'm going to right click and I am going to bring down the amount of solid fuel that we have on board, just 14 units, only 10% of the fuel. That saves us about 100 or so. And let's just bring down the thrust limiter a bit to about 50%. We just need to leave the ground. That is all we're doing, and we're ready to go. Okay, here we are at the launch pad, and there is a certain flow that you can use to get your maximum amount of science. We have Jebediah on board. We are here at the launch pad. Science is divided up into several actions. The first one being a crew report, which is taken from the pod. We will right click on the pod and we will go crew report. We record our assessment of the situation, and this is very important right here, the crew report from the launch pad. That means that when we take this science, we are recording a crew report here. If we were to take a crew report over here, that would be a different report. If we were to land in the water, that would be another different report. So every new place that you visit, be sure to take a crew report. Also, we can use this one-time use goo canister. We will observe it, and then we will take the 6 science from this. The goo doesn't seem to be doing much, again from the launch pad. You'll notice that this green bar is only 3/4 full. That means if we were to bring another goo canister to the launch pad, we could get that last 25% science. The next thing we actually want to do is EVA Jebediah, right click on him and do an EVA report from outside of the vessel to net another 4.8 science from the launch pad. We will keep that experiment. Now before we climb in, what we're going to do is right click on the pod. We will take the data out and get everything on him, and then when we store the experiments, we essentially put all the science that we know from the pod, our crew report, into another place. So essentially we can take another crew report whenever we land someplace else, and that is what we're getting ready to do. We are going to take off, we are going to turn, we are going to fly, we are going to right click, take a crew report, and pop the parachute so we can come down nice and easy like. The parachute should open up here, and now we will land safely in the grasslands over here. Now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and roll down and make sure that the hatch is up or easily accessible. We're going to EVA Jebediah once more, right click, do an EVA report, and now this is an EVA report from the Kerbal Space Center. So we can take that, right click on the pod, take all the data and store it, and now we can actually climb off, right click. No, we can't take a soil sample yet, so we have to do some upgrading to our astronaut complex, but we have gotten all the science. Up here in the upper right-hand corner, we see 3, which means these contracts have been fulfilled. We can click on one. We launched our first vessel and got $4,160, 2 science and 2 reputation from that. We can trash that. We also launched our first vessel, which netted us another 6,400, 2 science and 2 reputation. We can trash that. And we have the first world milestones. We performed an EVA test at home for another $6,000, 1 science. Broken a speed record of 25 meters a second for $19,000. Launched the first vessel, broken a distance record of 1,000 meters, and returned to the surface. All of these were fulfilled just by hopping over here. A lot of free money, a lot of free science. We can trash that as well. And now let's see if I can get up here with Jebediah. We can climb, grab the ladder. Come on, Jebediah. There we go. Grab and then board. And now we can recover the vessel and get our earnings. The next thing you will notice is that when we come back, you will see how much of our science we've recovered. Just from going here to here, we recovered 35.6 science from the mission, and those little extra bobs and doodads have given us 49.6 total science just from that little hop. We look at the parts, and we recovered these parts at 98% of their value. The closer you are to home, the more your spacecraft is worth when you bring it back. So we spent $1,900 on the craft, and we got $1,800 back. So essentially, we only spent $100. And now we go to our crew. Jebediah gained 1 XP. Certainly, these will go up the more he travels. But we are now done. That is our first mission. We are ready to open up research and development. And now we can unlock our basic rocketry, which will give us a bigger booster, an actual fuel tank, and an actual swivel engine. Let's open that up. And then Engineering 101 grants us another science experiment. So now when we put this thermometer on our ship, we can right-click on it, get a temperature reading for even more science. We also can now transmit data back. We can decouple our pod, and we get another antenna. That leaves us with 39.6 science to spend. Looking at survivability, we get another science experiment here with the barometer. We get some service bays, we get a drogue chute, we get side mounted parachutes, an actual landing strut, and heat shields. This will come in handy. And we can also look at general rocketry for a bigger solid rocket booster, a more powerful engine, and a bigger fuel tank, twice as big. We will research that. So in one mission, we ticked off these 4 nodes here, and we only have 4.6 left. And we gained a whole lot of money, over $100,000. We could look at the tracking station here. We can right click, and for $75,000, we can upgrade. So we can do maneuver nodes, which might be handy. We can upgrade the astronaut complex, so Kerbals can place flags and can perform EVAs, which will be very important when we get to the atmosphere. So let's go ahead and do that. And then, you know what? Let's see, the launch pad can hold 20 tons. For $25,000, we can upgrade that to 140 tons. So that might be something we can look forward to in the future in just a little bit. The tracking station for 75. I'm thinking about doing both of them. I think we can get away with it. Our contracts will be able to pay the bills here. Let's go ahead and upgrade our launch pad and upgrade our tracking station. And they're growing. We're now at 200,000, so we can make another vessel. But first, let's look at these contracts and see if there's anything else that we can do. We can test the swivel engine on the launch site. These are real easy to do. They will advance us 3,300 and grant us another 8,000 upon completion. That sounds pretty good to me. Surveys, orbits, test the Mark 16 parachute in flight. This may be difficult. We have altitude and speed requirements in order to test this parachute correctly. 9,000 meters to 12,000 meters, going between 190 and 250 meters a second. Test the stack decoupler landed at Kerbal. We can actually do that as well, I think. Yeah, let's do that. So they'll advance us 3,000, grants us 9 when we're done, and we're ready to go. I will show you why I picked that in a moment. When we go back to our ship, let's take off the goo canister and the booster. Let's go ahead and just get rid of these guys. We don't need to see them anymore. So we test the swivel engine at the launch site, and we test the stack decoupler while landed. That is easy to do. We can actually just put the stack decoupler here on this pod, and then we just place a small fuel tank, and we don't even need gas in it. Let's just take all the fuel and all the oxidizer out, because we are just going to test the swivel. That is all we are going to do. Now we might as well, while we're here, attach the mystery goo container once more. Let's attach the barometer, and let's attach the thermometer. We're going to get barometric data from the launch pad, and we're going to get thermal readings from the launch pad, and then use this goo canister to sort of finish up the launch pad mystery goo container. So we're going to launch. Now, in order to test a part, you can right-click on it to test it. So our first mission, let's open up our contracts, is to test the swivel engine. Right-click, run test, test complete. And we also need to test the stack decoupler. So we'll just decouple once we have our scientific data. So we will right-click, log the pressure data. We get 7.2 science just sitting here from the launch pad. We'll keep that. We will right-click, observe the mystery goo, and that finishes up our science, 1.4 more science there. Right-click on the thermometer, log the temperature, get 4.8 more science from the launch pad, and I think we're actually done here. We've done an EVA report, and we've done a crew report from the launch pad, so we're not going to get any science from that at all, but now we can actually test the stack decoupler. Test complete. So we have fulfilled both of those contracts. We got $9,000 more dollars and $8,000 more dollars, and now we can recover the vessel. The vessel will get recovered. We gain 1.7 science. We got 100% of our part value back. And Jebediah didn't gain anything because he really didn't do anything. But that gave us some more money, fulfilled some more contracts, gave us a tiny smidge of reputation, and still not enough to do the next level of science. So we will check the next set of contracts. Anything while landed. Escape the atmosphere. And then these observational surveys, they have a specific point on the planet that you have to fly over at a certain altitude, and we're certainly not ready for that. Let's see, haul the radial into... Okay, so we can actually haul the parachute into flight. So I think we can do that. They'll advance us more money. We can go ahead and take that one, I think, and then we can try to test the parachute as well. So we want to haul, and then we want to test the Mark 16 to see if we can do that parachute quest. All right, now it's time to actually build a rocket that can do something and get some more reports and whatnot. Let's go ahead and take that. Now, we needed the radial parachutes to be hauled into flight, so we need the radial 2 parachutes, which we will put on. Where be the parachutes? Utilities, of course. The Mark II radial mount parachute. So let's go ahead and put 2 of those on. We really only need 1, but two will do. All right. Now we just need a fuel tank here. And we just need a, how about the, let's see, the specific impulse is a little better on the Reliant fuel engine here, so we'll go ahead and take that. We don't need to be too aggressive because we're going to be taking baby steps here. Let's not forget our scientific experiment, so we will put on a barometer. We'll put on, oh, that yeah, I thought that did 2x2. Let's just do one of those, make sure radial symmetry is off. We'll do a barometer here. We will do a glue can here. And then we will do a thermometer over here. All right. Let's see, one problem that I'm seeing though, I will actually put the parachute before separation. If it looks like it's not going to slow down in time, I will disassemble as a last resort, but I think this should be enough for us to slow down with those two parachutes. In fact, just for giggles, I'm going to put on the Mark 16 as well, which actually we need to do between 9,000 and 12,000 meters. So essentially, this is our goal. We want to haul this into flight, and then we want to test the parachute. All right, looks good to me. We will launch. And now we are going to head out toward the ocean. So we can do basic SAS, stability control. Let's throttle down to 25% and fly towards the ocean. Let's be very meticulous here. Now, since we're in flight, this is a new experiment. So we can right-click, log the pressure data, and this is 16 science for the atmospheric pressure data above Kerbal. So we will keep that experiment. We're also flying. We can observe the mystery goo to get 14 more science while flying over Kerbal. And then we want to do another experiment here, log the temperature while flying over Kerbal shores. We'll keep that experiment. And then when we land in the water, which is actually what I think we would like to do now. Whoops, no, we want to actually fulfill our contract here. All right, we need to be a little bit higher. That was bogus. Anyway, it was a good time. We'll actually be able to do a crew report from the water. We'll be able to get out, take this data, get back in, and then take a temperature scan from inside the water, which is pretty cool stuff. Basically just sort of milk this science as much as we can. There's really no need to rush. We just want to unlock as many parts as we possibly can to help fulfill these contracts. I forgot all about the contracts. I was playing that tutorial so long that I forgot what we were doing. But we are about to land. Everything should be intact and awesome. 160 meters, 100 meters now, and we will set gently into the water at 6 meters a second. We might use our engine a bit to slow down here and cut. All right, can we roll over a bit? Nyeh. Looks like we can. We might be able to get this data, so we might as well right-click, take a crew report, and now we are from the water, another 4 science. We'll keep that experiment. We will EVA, right-click, do an EVA report from the water, another 6.4 science, keep that experiment. We will take the data, store them, and see if we can get down here into the water to collect the experiment. All right, take the data and store experiment. Let's see if we can take the data from the thermometer. Take the data and store. And now, since this goo canister is a one use only, we won't do that, but we will board. We will right click on the barometer, log the pressure data, get another 9.6 science from the water. We will keep that one. And our thermometer, log the temperature from the water, another 6.4 science, and that is going to do us, recover the vessel. So just that little hop, skip, and jump We are making more money. We gained 68 science. We're now back up to 87 just from going from here to here. We got 97% of our value back, so 6,000 funds back from the craft, and Jebediah no XP gain, but now 87.9% or 89 more science, which allows us to unlock this tier. Perhaps the smaller Terrier engine and the bigger tank. We can unlock struts. Not exactly good. We can unlock batteries and the Science Junior. So this is another science experiment, and it's good to get all of your science experiments early. So let's go ahead and take the Science Junior for 45. Solar panels are 90. We don't have enough for those. This branch is all 90. Let's see what we can do. Winglets, stability for radial decouplers, that would be nice, and aerodynamic nose cones. Yeah, we don't have enough for this tier, so we can actually just focus on these radial decouplers, which can allow us to put engines to the side. We'll research that. And that'll do us. 2 really well-flown missions. Well, kind of flown. And we're, a quarter of the way through the tech tree. Now, each one of these are going to be 45. Each one of these are going to be 90. Each one of these is 160. Each one of these are 300. Each one of these are 550. And these big ones are 1,000 science apiece. So, a lot of science left to do. Let's see what contracts are awaiting us. I think now we can escape the atmosphere. That is a lot of money complete and a lot of money advancing. So we'll look at that and orbiting. But next time we will fulfill these contracts and make our leave the atmosphere, do an EVA and all that good jazz. And yeah, and it should be a good time. Matter of fact, let's upgrade. Let's see, the astronaut complex. Oh, we already did. Okay. Let's upgrade mission control so we can take more contracts on. So now we have 7 contracts we can do. Let's go ahead and take Escape from the Atmosphere and Orbit Kerbal. That way we get the advanced dollars, and there's still some room to play. So that's going to do it for me in this episode, ladies and gentlemen. Like, share, and subscribe if you would like to see more of this career playthrough. And I will see you in the next Kerbal Space Program video. Take care.